Hey, it's Terry with Terry's Tidbits and the co-leader of the Des Moines User Group. We had an amazing user group yesterday. We hosted Mike Gerholdt, who was just open about answering people's questions as they came in, and it was just fantastic. We also had a surprise guest. Gillian Bruce also joined us, and she was able to contribute and add additional color to a lot of the questions. It was a fantastic meeting. If you missed it, here's your chance to get caught up with what happened in our meeting yesterday. So take a listen. I do, Joseph, before I turn it back over to you, since I have the floor.
Yeah, go for it.
We have also another special guest with us today, and I wanted to make sure to call her out, and that's Gillian. You are here also from Salesforce. She is another Salesforce evangelist, and so Gillian Bruce, I wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself, share with the group whatever you'd like to share as well.
Well, hello, everybody. Yes, I'm Gillian Bruce. I work very closely with Mike Gerholdt, who I think is next on the docket to present. I'm joining you from San Francisco today, so on the other coast. I am an admin evangelist on the amazing admin relations team. My job is to empower, inspire, and enable people like you to do amazing things with the Salesforce platform. Mike and I host a weekly podcast every Thursday called the Salesforce Admins Podcast. Tune in if you don't already. But I'm dropping in today mostly to just hover and see what y'all are talking about. And at the very end, I do have an ulterior motive. We are doing a big project right now where we're trying to kind of evolve the definition of a Salesforce admin, and we're going to do that based on data from you, the community. So at the end, I will ask you all a couple questions if we have some time, and then also encourage you to take a survey that we have out right now that's going to help us really kind of figure out how to best serve the admin community around the world. So thanks for letting me join today. It's amazing. Can I also just give you a shout out? I've dropped in on a bunch of these meetings in the last couple of weeks. This is the largest turnout of any meeting that I've joined. So y'all are awesome. And give yourselves big congratulations and a hug, because your community is clearly very connected and very strong. And that just like warms my heart and makes me feel so happy. So thanks for letting me join.
Excellent. Thank you. Joseph, I'll let you take it off.
Is everyone not just having the best time? This is great, and we haven't even gotten to our main speaker yet. Who is up next? So I can see in the chat, there are people that are like, oh my gosh, Salesforce gurus, I want autographs. But if you're newer to this world, don't feel left out, because I'm about to tell you exactly who Mike Gerholdt is. And I'm going to read this just to make sure I get it correct, because Mike is the Senior Director of Salesforce Admin Evangelism at Salesforce. He leads a group of world-class admin evangelists who are helping Salesforce admins to realize their dreams by being technology leaders and advancing their careers. So you have come to the right place if you're hoping to do any of those things. Mike, I see you've joined us. I'm going to spotlight you so everyone can see you. We're going to be able to ask Mike some questions. Welcome, Mike.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I put a whole bunch of stuff in the chat because I'm used to joining these calls and chatting a whole lot. So, oh, good. Amanda's here. Amanda, you can say hi to Gillian. I'm sure we should get you on the podcast. Fun fact, for those that don't know Amanda, she had to deal with me at ACT when we were admins together.
So, Mike, we have advertised that we're going to be doing a Q&A session.
I know.
Our understanding is that
it's going to be fun.
I'm so excited.
Not at all worried about the questions I'm about to get.
We're going to get real with our questions today. They're going to be hard-hitting. If all of you have questions, Mike, I'm assuming you had mentioned that the chat is a great way to talk with you, and Terry and I can help monitor that. We would also say, perhaps if you want to appear on video and ask your question, you can raise your hand. And again, Terry and I can also help to monitor that as well. Does that sound good, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever feels comfortable for you. I know asking questions in a big forum can be a bit daunting. So I'll start with Darren. Darren, you wanted to talk about cars. I am happy to do that any time of the day. Ask Gillian.
I was just joking because you're a good follow on social, and I know you love the Hawkeyes and Cars. So,
Yep. The Hawkeyes a little less than Cars.
Hey, I'm coming from a big organization. We have a good mix of declarative builders and engineers that are making changes, to many orgs. I don't know if I can put Gillian on the spot, but talk about the what you guys have planned to maybe converge those two groups and to build tools that we have. Maybe for the declarative builders and where the roadmap of some of that stuff is.
So forward-looking statement. I think my approach to everything is don't always look at Salesforce to solve your problems. Salesforce can help you solve your problems, but we also need you, the Salesforce admin, to put processes and procedures and governance in place to help the products really perform. And that goes across the platform, whether it's security or it's change management. And so to your question, right now, if you're a heavy dev shop or you're an agile methodology place or you're a place that has a lot of process in place, you're probably used to moving changes. It sounds like where you're at is kind of everybody walks into the kitchen and people are throwing ingredients in the soup. So I would say, one, let's start that conversation with IT. Work your relationships through technology so that you have that seat at the table, so that you're the Salesforce person, much like there's probably a Exchange person or maybe an Oracle server person, and start the process of how do other departments deploy change, and bring that best practice over. So part one is think through the procedure that you want to have and how you want to adopt, and that's hard and painful. Step two, and I think Gillian's on this, we're doing internal blitz of a new product that you might have saw at DreamTX, that Gillian actually was on with the PM Karen Fidelic, called DevOps Center. And DevOps Center is a new product from Salesforce that'll allow you to collaborate it'll basically manage your change in GitHub repos. So as an admin, you don't have to worry about what changes are being made and what sandboxes. You can pull your changes all together and push from sandbox to sandbox, or again, forward-looking statement, from sandbox to production, and actually control those changes. I would say, again, all of that works with a procedure and a plan in place, because you want to do it with trust and transparency, and one builds the other. So the more transparent you are with the process to both any of your internal stakeholders and your external stakeholders, meaning your users, the more trust you're going to build. And so you can do your own release cycle outside of the 3 releases that Salesforce has. Silence.
Mike, we had a question come in, and this is centered on Salesforce evangelism. So right up your alley, right?
Here we go. I'm going to make Gillian
here we
answer it. We'll start doing the Mark thing where it's like, Gillian, you got to answer this one. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. So you are an expert at Salesforce evangelism. How would you begin to help change the mind of certain users, possibly salespeople, who are a bit of a stick in the mud? They have already made up their mind that Salesforce is not user-friendly, despite the majority of users finding success in our configuration. This can come down to a training issue, but it seems like it might be a bit more of an attitude problem. How would you begin to make inroads with this grumpy Gus, as well as keep this counterproductive mindset from spreading?
See why that person wasn't wanting to own that question, given this is being recorded.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm also glad you came with easy questions. So user adoption. I think so. First of all, let's start at the foundation level. It starts with just personally being able to identify with the user, hang out with them, and talk with them. And I say that outside of Salesforce, I think you have to start your relationship with that person so that they feel comfortable enough talking with you and sharing with you the real problem. So the real problem isn't the Salesforce isn't productive because you've got X, Y, and Z. The real problem is their perception of it. And you need to get to the root of that. You're not going to get to the root of that until they feel comfortable and feel like they have a relationship that they can share with you. So this is a relationship bonding time. There will be, and anybody that's worked with me knows there are people in the organization I don't get along with, but you still have to find common ground. So I would purposely reach out to them to talk about things. The first thing I would do is start talking to them about what they do in selling, get them to open up and have that conversation with you. So psychology tells us that when people talk more versus people who don't talk in a meeting or in dates, they view the meeting or the date more successful. So the more you talk, the more successful the meeting was. The opposite also holds true. So for me, I will leave this because I've done a lot of talking and been like, that user group was amazing. And it was amazing because my lens of the user group was I did a lot of talking and everybody did a lot of listening. You may leave and say that user group was the worst because you didn't get to talk at all. And when humans don't feel heard, they don't feel valuable. So talk to them about things that are important to them and get to understand their sales methodology and how they sell and how they like to sell. Essentially engage them in a conversation where they're the expert and you're the one learning, because you need to have that humility moment where you learn from them so that you have a positive relationship with them. And then you can start uncovering what the real factors are about using Salesforce as part of their sales process. And I think what a lot of users, and myself included, I started using the CRM in 2004, mostly because the publishing company I was with found this web-based CRM, and at the time the internet was new-ish, and this is going to be perfect. I didn't like it because I didn't like having to document everything. It felt like it wasn't making me valuable to the organization, because then everybody had access to all of my notes, and what good am I to the organization? And it would give us call lists. And I like to curate my call lists because I like to give my insight, right? Like the way I viewed a CRM was it wasn't letting me bring my special talents to the organization. And what I soon realized was that was actually the backwards way of thinking it. The backwards way of thinking it was the more I populate this, the smarter the CRM is, the smarter the organization becomes, the better the experience is for the customer. And that's the goal. When you sell more because the customer's happy. And so the more I would put in the CRM, the more my service agents would understand when a teacher would call in because there were textbooks missing, how to deal with that teacher or the typical order that they had. And because of that, customer service calls declined. Like it was a waterfall effect. So step one, build the relationship and build it in a way that starts off with making them the expert so that you're learning. And then you can start uncovering why. And it could be just that they're used to doing things in a certain way. They may view Salesforce as another thing to do as opposed to actually supporting the process. And it's also worth validating some of those concerns with other productive users, because the one thing you want technology to do is you want technology to support the process. And if technology isn't supporting the process, it's going to look like technology is its own process. And there shouldn't be a sales process and a technology process. There should just be a process. And it's the process to get the customer to their product or, to their meeting the end goal. And I feel like that's what they're pushing back at, right? Like it's the same thing kind of realtors go through. People will say the house is too small or they don't like the paint color on the wall. Well, you can always repaint, right? They're throwing out objections that are meant to be small tripping barriers to what the actual problem is. And I think you have to uncover that. And to me, it sounds like there might be also some more organizational change going on that user is a little bit resistant to, whereas some of the other users are embracing. So to whoever asked that question, it's not a one and done fix, it's a long-term fix. And I would get friends in HR or training to help, because more than likely you can also talk to them about, is there more organizational change going on? Has this person expressed concern about it? Are they newer to the organization? Are they senior to the organization? They may be very set in their ways. They may not want to change, or they may see change as a way of subverting their job. So I think there's more layers to the onion to peel back.
Thank you. We do have questions coming in from the chat, both public and private.
Oh my.
Do you want to grab some of the public ones, and then I'll feed you some of the private ones here in a moment?
Let's see. We'll start off with Karen. So Karen, do you have any inside information on functionality that may be deprecated in the future? For example, will workflow rules or process builder eventually go away in favor of Lightning components, LWC, stop using? So no, we don't. There is, so at some point, any feature or functionality at Salesforce could go into end of life, right? Like we saw that with S controls. I think rather than looking for where the road ends and planning for the road to end and looking for the very last exit before you get off the road. Noticed I used a road analogy, which has cars, but I didn't talk about cars. I would say, think about what you're doing on the road and how you can travel the fastest. So let me continue this with workflows and process builder. Could workflows go away? Yes, they could. We haven't announced that, and we don't publicly plan to do that. If you live in Iowa, and you live kind of where I live in Iowa City, just south of me is Kelowna, and we have this lovely Amish community that makes beautiful arts and crafts and cheese and lovely homemade things. And they still drive on the roads in a horse and buggy, which I 100% respect. And it gets them to where they need to go. Do we have electric cars on the road? Yep. And I would say workflow rules are kind of like horse and buggy, and electric cars are kind of like flow builder. There's new, more powerful ways of doing complicated business process solving. That is the tool you should use. So I would say, rather than look at when features or functionality is going to go end of life, look at what gets me to the best, most productive, scalable solution. And right now, that's flow. You can start off with a very simple flow, and it can solve 10 workflow rules. And when your business gets more complex, or a problem gets more complex, or somebody says, yeah, but wouldn't it be great if it did this and decided this and gave me an option for this? You're already in flow. And so instead of looking at, making something in the slowest possible term, you could use the most modern tool available and go that route. How'd I do, Karen? There's no feedback here. It's very Midwestern. We're all like, yes, that sounded wonderful.
I will speak up. Okay, yeah, go ahead,
Please
Karen.
do.
Oh, okay. Just
me and Karen work. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Amanda. Sorry.
We work for the same place. We love to speak up. I'm Amanda Ponata, working through a large organization. Since we're on the flow topic, I'm curious, what would you tell a large organization to consider when building out their flow concepts? If getting into separate flows based on particular needs by business unit, should large organizations be thinking about flows in a bigger like concept, do you think?
Mm.
It's a tough one.
No, I would say yes. And I would say tune in for what we've got planned at Trailhead DX.
All right, you're already solving my problem, and I just asked it. I love it. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, you bet. Let's see, Chrissa. Oh, hey. See, Midwest people don't beat around the bush. Is Slack going to replace Chatter? I don't know. It could for you. I think I'm going to go back to, I'm not trying to not answer the question, but I also want you to think of your use case and the technology that we provide. So Slack is definitely a different way of collaborating, and Gillian can attest to this. As an organization, we're learning it, and we're learning how to collaborate with it, and we're learning the pros and cons to it. Does that make Chatter bad? No. It also doesn't make Slack bad. I think the one thing you have to do is understand what's going to work for your users and your organization and what you're most comfortable with.
So can I reframe that question?
Sure.
And ask, do you have any insight as to what is Salesforce vision for Slack? Like, are we looking at a tighter Salesforce Slack integration? Because realistically, what I want to do is, I know that Slack would be a better solution for how my company is currently using Chatter. So I just need to know what is my outlook on what is that going to look like, because I want to know what's my timeline essentially.
Yeah. Gillian can answer that. Come off mute, Gillian. Oh no. Oh, she wants to answer
I was referring
else.
to the question in the chat, not this one, Mike. I'm going to let you take this one. This
Okay.
is all yours.
It totally is. So independently, Slack is still its own organization. We haven't definitively closed on Slack. So we still operate as Salesforce. Slack still operates as Slack. And the two will remain separate companies until we close. So we don't have a vision yet, because we can't. We don't own that company. That's a separate company right now. So internally, we do use Slack, and that's publicly known. We also use Chatter internally as well. So I would say for you, until everything closes, we don't have kind of a forward-looking vision for Slack, at least one that's not publicly shareable.
Okay, well, thanks for that awesome non-answer. It was great.
Well, there's a lot of legal rules and regulations around companies acquiring companies.
What happens when you ask Salesforce people these questions? Just, you know.
Yeah.
I know, but I try every time, hoping that like maybe I can get a little more out, but it's all good. I've slammed my account exec with this question too. So,
we like our jobs.
like, hey, I don't blame you. I like mine too, but I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for like 8 years, so
yeah. Gillian, you talked about the question that was in the chat. Did you want to cover that?
Yeah.
I'm just going down the list.
Yeah. So the question in the chat was, some Salesforce thought leaders have proposed that the traditional admin path is going away and having coding skills will be key in the years to come. Just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Well, Mike and I have lots of thoughts on this. No surprise. In fact, that's why I'm actually working on this kind of admin careers project that I briefly mentioned before Mike started. First of all, let's talk about Salesforce thought leaders. I think I know exactly which video you're talking about. And, you know, everyone has their own perspective. I will say a couple things. So first, we have gotten feedback in the community. We've also watched the way the industry has transformed over the last year, especially. And the last time we actually kind of recognized and publicly identified, you know, what the Salesforce admin is was like 6-7 years ago. So it's time for us to update that, which is what we're doing now, which is why I'm doing a ton of research and dropping in on all these amazing user groups to get feedback and running the survey. And our team, both internally and with external stakeholders, is working very hard to kind of nail this and get this right to better serve the admin community and the admin audience. the admin role and identity ain't going anywhere, just so you know. And the question about needing coding skills, I would fight back on that pretty strongly. If you look at the direction that our platform has evolved, especially over the last 5 years since Lightning came out, it is very declarative first. And that's in fact one of the differentiators of the Salesforce platform versus a lot of other products on the market. And so especially, I mean, talk about all the innovations that have been happening with Flow, right? Flow now enables us as people who don't code to do things that previously was only available to people who code. So if you kind of read the tea leaves a bit, Salesforce is really empowering and enabling the declarative first approach. Now, does knowing some code maybe help you in some projects? Sure. Does it limit you from being able to grow your career? Absolutely not. And so I really hope that hopefully by the end of the summer, Salesforce, based on the work that we're doing now, will be able to kind of empower you further with that messaging and giving you some tools and some resources to really help you connect with the right career paths and the right jobs and find the right opportunities based on those factors and that research, and kind of give you some good data. But long answer to that question, I think it's a very important question to ask. And it's one of the things that spurred the whole project that I'm working on right now. So hopefully that helps address some of those concerns. And if you have more strong thoughts on that, like at the end of it, like, you know, after we kind of after you're done asking Mike all the questions, I actually have a couple questions I want to ask all of you related to that, and really strongly encourage you that if you have strong feelings about this, please, please, please don't hesitate to share them with me, either now, or you can email me or direct message me. Like, this is really important for me to get this feedback and understand how you're thinking about it.
I think that's amazing. And I just want to point out that, like, in the space that I'm working in, I'm seeing developers move away from Apex and putting into code. They're really thinking about, like, can I do this in a flow versus do I need to build custom Apex code? And so you're starting to see them like evolve into like our admin spaces, right? And admins are now helping developers learn things in flows. And so there's some really good feedback that I'm seeing in the space I'm working in. Congratulations for that, to get those people out of Apex and into flows. I'm like, sweet. Trigger flows, awesome. Screen flows, great. There's a couple hiccups here and there for admins when we do have to call out to some special Apex code, but it's getting there. So, like, I'm clapping my hands over here and jumping up and down.
That's like such great to hear. Thank you for sharing that.
Looks like we lost Mike. Hopefully he'll be able to come back in. So Julian, you're on the spot.
You're up, Julian.
Bring it.
Julian, this is Brittany speaking. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Yes. Just from my perspective, I think it would be great if Salesforce could help the industry break out that Salesforce admin role, because it seems like it's a layered cake where you can have that base admin that maybe hasn't quite adopted flows. And the compensation, I feel like, should be different versus like mid-tier admin who's decent with flows versus like a top-level cake tier admin who is a flow master, who can read code, who really is approaching a developer level. So I think if Salesforce could help break up that cake in terms of compensation, that would help companies a lot.
Great feedback, Brittany. Thank you. Forward-looking statement. One of the products that one of the set of deliverables that I'm hoping to get out of this project is some sample job descriptions, some career pathway stuff for admins. I view kind of Salesforce admin as like an umbrella of various different job titles and job duties, just based on what I've been hearing, right? I mean, you have people who are business analysts, people who are product owners, people who are RevOps managers, all of which kind of fall into the Salesforce admin umbrella, as I like to say. And there's lots of opportunities and options within that. In terms of salary data, that is always very tough for Salesforce to come out and say, this is what you should pay Salesforce professionals, because of a lot of reasons. However, that does not mean that some of our workforce and talent development partners aren't already working on that. So it's something we're very conscious of. I will say that I'm really hoping for at least some more clarity of some like clear job definitions and some career pathways that hopefully will help with that differentiation. And I am working very closely with a lot of people who are not necessarily limited by some of the Salesforce constraints in the kind of talent and workforce development space as well.
Oh, thank you. Yes. And also if clarity could be provided on the Pardot and Salesforce, I guess, capacity, right? Do you really need a separate Salesforce admin and a separate Pardot admin? And if you do, then that business case would be very helpful in hiring. Yeah.
Great feedback. Thank you.
Hi, sorry, my internet crashed.
It happens for Mike. It does. I'm used to this.
Yep.
Welcome back, Mike.
Thanks.
Happy to have you.
Sorry.
Gillian tackled some spicy, hard-hitting questions and got some amazing feedback. That's my assessment of the last 2 minutes.
Good. Great.
And we do have a couple more questions that are coming through in the chat.
Away.
If you two are ready.
Yep.
Okay. The next one, as an awesome admin, it can be very easy to get way too deep in the weeds when discussing projects or issues. This duplicate is allowed to do this, but not that. We can do this field as X, but not Y. At a very basic level, this can come down to knowing your audience, but what tips do you have for right-sizing the details that you're sharing with your audience?
So is the question you don't want to get in the weeds? I guess we don't know.
I think, oh no, it's me. It's not anonymous.
It's you?
Me. I like to ramble.
Good.
I get down in the weeds and sometimes I'm like, oh no, that was way too much information. I'm over explaining. Other times I feel like I do the opposite where it's too high level. And even though I think I know my audience, sometimes I don't always find that balance.
Yeah. I mean, it's always going to be a struggle. I think one of the things that I found out, and I'll go back to working at ACT, and Amanda will know this, you kind of don't know the level that your audience wants until they start asking it from you. And so I would come prepared to get into those details and then wait for individuals to ask those questions. Those can actually be some of your best people to work with because you might start identifying super users that way. That's the way that, Amanda was in contracts and really dug into asking questions and wanting to know more of the technology, and actually became an advocate for that entire organization to help drive adoption. And it was looking for additional details. So, I would say it's also completely within your realm, I think, if you're heading into a training or you're heading into a new rollout, to ask people, what is the level of detail that you would like? And, provide a basic level of detail and maybe additional information to those that request it.
It's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Sorry, my chat also erased when Zoom died.
Oh,
so I lost
it's
everything.
Fine. Jackie is looking around for some rumors. Any internal rumors regarding
rumor group. Do you know anything new? Any rumor? Anything that's going to end life? Anything that'll get us fired? Or okay. So here we go. More rumors. What was the rumor?
Any internal rumors regarding Dreamforce?
It's going to be awesome.
You heard it here first, folks.
Whatever we decide. I will say, so when it comes to virtual events, we're learning and doing a transition on every event that we do. So, and Gillian can speak to this because I know later today, we both have Trailhead DX calls. The level at which we talk about our virtual events has changed from, just how do we get this stuff filmed with an iPhone to what is the production level that we can attain. And also a lot of it has to do with vaccines and rollouts and just overall comfort within the world and the country. So, even if everybody was fully vaccinated and ready to go, are we still comfortable doing that? Is that a good experience? Is packing 100,000 people in San Francisco, 8 months after a global pandemic, a good idea, right? So these are things that we're thinking of. And also, how do we make it so that it's really, I think one of the things that we thought of this year and last year is virtual gives us the ability to be in everyone's home and let everyone participate. Whereas in years past, I've had to work on, so here's the Dreamforce experience. And now here's how we bring the Dreamforce to, the X percentage of customers that didn't attend. And now the vast majority of customers can attend because it's all on the same laptop that they use Salesforce on. So that would be any of the rumors I would add around Dreamforce. But in the meantime, we have Trailhead DX. So let's talk about that. Because it's going to be cool.
When is that coming up?
June 23rd.
June 23rd.
Yeah.
June.
Let me see if I can find a link, and I'll put that in the chat for that.
Terry put this in the chat. Other than the idea exchange, how does Salesforce determine its next big idea?
I think a lot of it's corporate vision. So we're in V2 Mom mode, which for those of you that don't know what V2 Mom stands for, it's vision, values, methods, obstacles, and metrics. And there's actually a Trailhead module that you can take on and learn how to write your own V2 Mom. If you scroll through a year's worth of tweets, you'll see I wrote a V2 Mom, a personal V2 Mom, which I would encourage everybody to do. But a lot of that is written through leadership. We have great leadership. Mark is a wonderful leader. Brett is taking on a lot of the product vision. And so, a lot of that outside of idea exchange is also where do we want the product to go, in addition to gaps or features that we want to add in the product. But yeah, I would also encourage everybody to write your own V2 Mom. So it's fun.
There was a very important question about Brett Taylor and the bushes during last Dreamforce. Mike, you want to talk that one?
Sure. I don't know. I didn't get, how much crap did Brett internally? None. In fact, he tweeted about it. And then it's been a running joke now. If you haven't seen any of our live stuff, Brett has been doing the peeking out of the bushes and stuff. I think it's hilarious. I personally have not ever worked for a company in my entire life where I feel like the executive team has more fun than some of us middle management people. So I think it's great. He didn't get any. And
did
Mike just freeze?
Yeah, I think we lost him again.
So frozen.
Having some trouble.
At least he froze and not like a horrible face.
Yeah, right. That's
it's
awesome.
flattering. It's flattering.
We do have quite a few questions out there though now that are
keep asking him. I'm happy to start, and then if Mike comes back, he'll pick up.
All right. Well, Gillian, all right, I'm spotlighting you now. Oh, there you are. You're featured. You're now a featured presenter. Congratulations. Tanner asks, as an admin, how do you handle super users who want system admin access without just saying that ain't going to happen? Good question.
I mean, that's a way nicer approach than I would probably do. I'd be like, sorry, not going to happen. But I think what's great about having super users is they are your hugest evangelists and your hugest advocates. So empower them. Maybe, encourage them to do stuff in a developer org. If they have a great idea, like build something out. And then if you really like it, you can partner with them and give them the opportunity to like help you actually build out that process. I think, encouraging super users is great because they could be your next hire, right? They could be your replacement. They could be, if nothing else, they're your greatest tool for feedback because they'll be able to tell you honestly, like, why did you do it that way? Can you think about doing it this way? So find a way to kind of be like, cool, I'm really glad you want access. I want to encourage this. Here's what you can do. Play in this DE org. Like, show me the things that you want to build and then bring them to me, and then we'll see if we can make it happen. I think that's probably a good approach. And maybe like empower them to like own a chatter group that's about, product feedback, or, have the help you run, feedback meetings, or empower them to do trainings with you or for you. I think that you can absolutely leverage them in those ways without giving them full admin access to your org.
Love it.
Mike's back.
Yeah.
Welcome
so
back.
What's cool is this time Zoom crashed. So for those of you playing virtual bingo, we're pretty close.
All right. Are you
cool.
ready to take a couple more questions?
Sure.
We've got a little time left. All right.
Yep.
This next one is asking for 3 things. What are the top 3 things you would tell a large organization to consider when forming enterprise concepts / teams?
I think I need a little bit more on that.
W0880898. Would you like to add any additional context?
Oh, I am so sorry. I was still on mute. So
okay.
like my question is, large organization, lots of business units, financial service industry, lots of stuff going on. What would be the top 3 things that you would tell us to focus on to come up with enterprise concepts as moving into Salesforce? Does that help? It's a tough one.
And by enterprise concepts, you mean transitioning from another database or?
More like getting a very large organization to think about the things that happen in Salesforce more at like an enterprise level instead of the one-off kind of things that are happening in each of the business units. They don't always talk together, right? And like, how do you get all those people together to think of things like not separately in the business units, but to holistically think it as a process, as an organization?
Gotcha. Okay. Now I'm tuned in. It was, if you're one of those old TV channels, like I was stuck between channel 3 and 4.
We weren't quite there yet. We're on channel 4 now.
Yep.
Great.
So I guess I would, and it probably exists out there, but I would just Google Customer 360. And we have a visual image of a customer in the middle with our products around it. And I bring that up because that works as, here's our goal. I think what I see some companies and some organizations get hung up on is they're too hung up on the process and how it relates to them. And they forget that the end goal is the customer, and the customer is the end goal for everything. Like, the goal with sales is to start that engagement. The goal with service is to continue the engagement. The goal with marketing is to ensure that that customer is engaged and aware of your brand and the products available that can solve their solutions. And you can kind of work your way around. And I would say, absent of looking at Salesforce, the product, and Salesforce, the product solutions, it's taking a step back and actually I would go somewhere in your company, there has to be a mission statement, right? Like, build the best doors or make the best picture frames in the world. Align what you're trying to accomplish with Salesforce to that mission statement. And it goes back to the question that I kind of answered before with V2Mom, like, build a vision. What's your vision for this platform? So absent of all of the bells and whistles that it can do, at the end of the day, what is your company trying to do? And it can be as simple as, we want to be the best ceiling fan manufacturer in the world. Great. How do we do that? What are our values? What do we want to portray forward? And then how are we going to achieve that? And it may start off very simply with, our call center uses Salesforce to listen, to take inbound calls and respond to customer complaints. And then you build off of that. But it always has to point back to a nucleus of, what's your vision, not only for the platform, which I think is important, but also for your company. absent of that. So to use a very simple analogy, let's say you wanted to be the best delivery company in the world. You could go out and buy a whole bunch of fast cars because they'll deliver packages really quick, except each car can only hold 2 packages. So you're not going to hold a lot of packages. And if you're going to dominate the freight industry, fast cars aren't going to help you. You have to have a vision for what you're trying to do. Vision is to be the best delivery company in the world. How we're going to get there? It may be a combination of fast cars and big semis. And that could be sales and service cloud as well. But I think absent of it, almost looking at all of the Lego pieces on the floor and saying, what should we build? It's more of sketching out and saying, here's what we're going to build. Here's our roadmap. Now, what Lego pieces do we need? And what are those products and services from Salesforce that'll help us achieve that?
That analogy was so cool, Mike, on the Lego pieces. I get that right
I
now.
get a lot of Lego stuff from Gillian. She has that whole destroyer thingamahooey behind her, and the bear.
I love the Legos. That makes a lot of sense right now. It feels like sometimes there's a bunch of just Lego pieces on the floor, and the Lego pieces aren't always coming together to get that customer experience, right? And that's so important because it's external facing, that you have it built right. That you're getting to that. So thanks for your insight. I really appreciate it.
You bet. I mean, I'll call out. I see David still on the call. I caught part of his demo. That's a really cool product. If you don't have a vision for how you're going to use it, then it's just like another pair of fuzzy dice hanging from the rearview window, right? But if you have a vision and you can execute on it, now back to the first question I got was like, I got a stick in the mud user. They might not understand what the vision is for the company and for the platform, right? Like the one thing that I'll note is different about implementing Salesforce versus something else, technology, is that often you're reinventing your company and you're reinventing a whole lot of process while you're doing it. And you're doing it because the technology allows for you to do it. You're not going from wagon wheels to, rubber tires. You're going from like wagon wheels to, the future of tires. And it's a bigger change, but it also allows you to do bigger changes, right? Like the last thing you want to do is, well, our previous process was to attach, the spreadsheet to a record and then so on. So it does that. Why does the spreadsheet even need to exist? Let's rethink that part of it, but rethink it in terms of, how do we get to the end goal of our customers are the happiest, most productive customers on earth because we made them successful? So.
Love it.
Thanks, Mike. I see that we're coming up almost to the end of our time with this segment.
Yeah, we want to make sure Gillian has time to talk. She has stuff.
Yeah. Gillian, do you have time for one more question before we turn it over to Gillian? Okay,
yeah, sure.
I wanted to make sure that Angela's question got asked because I've heard this from a couple of people. Do you have any recommendations on getting the most out of the Salesforce virtual events? I'm somewhat struggling to stay engaged while remote, and I think that applies to many things. And we're on a virtual call right now, so we would love to hear your thoughts.
I would love. So, is Angela on? Can she come off mute? Does she feel brave enough to come off mute?
Yeah, I can definitely come off mute.
Tell me more, because this is what we're trying to solve for. So I struggle to stay engaged because there's 10 million things we have to do as an employee, and I wonder if we're not giving you too much. But I would love to know what it feels like on your side and things you want us to solve for.
So from my perspective, there are a million things going on. It's a virtual environment. So one positive about leaving the house and actually going somewhere for an event is you're kind of stepping away from your home life, your work life, and you're going in and you're fully immersing yourself in, a learning environment or an environment where you're going to be engaged. So for me, I've really struggled because, and I've attended several of the sessions and events that have occurred over the last year, but sometimes I feel like the content is going so fast that it's almost like I can't catch it all at once. 20-minute sessions are fantastic, but when it's such a deep a content heavy session, that it's really hard to really pay attention, because you're like, well, I forgot that last step. So, okay, well, I guess I missed it all, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
No, it 100% does. So, so some of it we can solve for, and some of it, I think is we can partner together on. And the first thing I would say is nothing at an event outside of like the live MC stuff, which is good that Gillian's on, won't be recorded or rebroadcast somewhere. Like every webinar we do, unless we explicitly say it up front, it's recorded and it's going to be rebroadcast somewhere. So take heart that even if you missed it, you can come back to it. The second is, I would say, and I know we need to get better at this, is look at what we're putting out for content and have a plan for what you really want to see and stuff that you're okay missing. And so we totally, like, even for Trailhead DX, we put out more than any one human can consume. And we do that because there's a lot of people that are attending that are looking for different experiences. Not everybody wants to do a session. Some people just want to do a Q&A, or some people just want to attend a virtual demo, or some are just going for Luminary. And I think this is across all of our events. Like, we put on different experiences so that you can kind of pick your own, and then come back to it. But I would say, and this was important for me when I was a customer, what do I want to get out of this? What's like in priority order? What are the 3 things that I want to get? And that'll help you prioritize those sessions to follow up. The second thing is, even when the content goes quick and fast, which, I mean, we're going to do 30-minute sessions at Trailhead DX. There's that balance of trying to figure out how long a session should be before people aren't paying attention, and how short a session should be where we actually don't really even cover anything. A lot of the sessions are meant to be as inspirational as possible and give you 1 or 2 things that you can go back and start researching and learning more on your own. So I say that because I've watched Food Network for many years, and I never learned how to cook from Emeril Lagasse. But I did know a few things that got me inspired to learn more about spices, or got me inspired to learn more about Cajun cooking than I did in the past. And so look at those sessions as kind of an inspiration or a way to see things that you can then go back to Trailhead and learn more and dig deeper on. And then totally, Salesforce is like a speeding train. We throw 100 million things at you. It's like drinking from a fire hose. These are all terms you're going to hear a lot of. And just know you can come back to it with a straw and sip away later. All of our Dreamforce TX stuff just got put up on YouTube. So we have that. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
No, it definitely does. So thank you.
Yeah.
I would just add one thing to that, Angela, and that is tap into this amazing community group that you're a part of. A lot of people that I've talked to that have gotten the most out of virtual events have some sort of a watch party, either during or after or before, to kind of gather as a group and either talk about stuff that they're interested in or prepare. Like, that's the one piece that unfortunately really is missing from this virtual experience, is connecting with other people. And so as much as you can kind of lean on your existing community connections and make that part of the experience, I think will add a lot to that.
I will say, as much as I, don't miss running around San Francisco from building to building, I do miss a lot of the interaction and being able to really sit down and talk things through with somebody if I have questions or whatnot. And I feel like that is, something that's missing with this in virtual stuff. So
yeah, I'll poke the bear and say, Terry, this is a great, post Trailhead DX follow-up thing.
I was just feeling that pressure right there.
Okay, good.
Yeah, very good.
Well, I'm happy, Joseph, if you want to shoot me any questions I didn't get answered, I'm happy to respond via email. I do want to make sure, I know Gillian wanted to cover career stuff, or I don't know if she did that. In the myriad of times that my internet went down because MediaCom.
Yeah, I've saved the chat. We'll go through afterward and see if there's anything we missed, and be sure to circle back with those. So thank you both so much, and this was great, Gillian. We'll turn it over to you now.
All right, I don't want to like take over the whole rest of the meeting, but I definitely have some questions that I'd love to get some feedback from this group on, since you are also amazing and engaged. I will make a quick comment. One of the questions I did see in the side was about Marketing Cloud, like playground environment. This is actually a very hot topic that is having a very good discussion on Twitter right now. There are virtual trailhead marketing environments that you can play in. That kind of guide you through. It's like called a trailhead simulator for Marketing Cloud. And I don't know if any of you all have seen any of one of the YouTube series that we've been putting out is called No Silly Questions. And it's where I put experts on the spot to answer questions about things like, why don't we have a Marketing Cloud environment to play in? And that is on the docket. So if you have more to add to that conversation, I'm going to put a link to that tweet in the window right now. Please pile on. Because that's the ammo I need to get things answered. So there's that. Okay, so quick transition. I know I kind of have mentioned a few times this big admin careers project I'm working on. I have a whole bunch of questions I'd love to ask you. I'm really actually going to focus on just a couple, because I know this has been a while that y'all have spent together, and this is amazing. But basically, I kind of wanted to have an open forum where I ask a couple questions to kind of get your feedback. I am recording just the audio, and I won't even use your names, but it's just the way that I better consume information. So just letting you know that if you don't want to be on the audio recording, feel free to ping me directly with responses or thoughts or whatever. Again, that will only be used for transcription so that I can pull like data for my project. You won't be on blast. So the big question I want to kind of start with is, I want to understand what you feel the value proposition is of being a Salesforce admin. So if you were to say why someone should be a Salesforce admin and what are the advantages, like I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So please just come off mute and let it fly.
I think one of the things that's most interesting is, to me, is if you really understand the business processes that individual groups have. You really want to see improvements for automation for them and making them more efficient. And I think that that's like a big draw and a big positive when it comes to being a Salesforce admin.
Thank you. That's great.
I feel like it's also very transferable. Like you can be a Salesforce admin in any industry. And so like I've spent most of my career in some level of tech, but then I dabbled in agriculture for a little while, and now I'm in propane, but I've been working in Salesforce in all of those companies. So it makes it really easy to transition across industries. And if you decide you don't like Salesforce, I mean, I don't know who would do that, but I'm sure somebody does. Like now you can transfer to something else because you found an industry you like or something along those lines. So I think it's a very transferable skill into other things. And like Kevin said, process improvement, that's also transferable into a lot of other places too. So to me, it's like a gateway career. So you start there and then you either follow down the path of Salesforce or you find something else that really interests you and you have passion for.
That's awesome. Krista, can I ask you a follow-up question?
Sure.
When you say gateway career and you talk about kind of follow down Salesforce, are you thinking of like you can continue your career as a Salesforce admin, or you kind of jump to another type of Salesforce work?
Yes, to both of those things. And for me, I say it because I guess I've always viewed my journey with Salesforce as an interesting one, because I was fresh out of college and someone said, hey, we're implementing Salesforce, so you get to be the admin, go forth and do all the things. So that led me to basically say, I don't need that marketing degree I just got. I'm going to go all in on Salesforce. So then you become a really experienced admin, which I know we've had a lot of discussion around that on this meeting about what does it mean to be a really advanced admin or not. So, you become an admin and maybe you go down the developer path, or you decide to be a solution architect that just kind of dabbles in code, because you don't necessarily need to know how to read code to be an architect necessarily, depending on what kind of architect you choose to be. So to me, that's why, like, being an admin, I mean, a user, I suppose, is really how it all starts. But you don't have to start as a user. You can start as an admin and learn the system and make it better and learn from your own mistakes, which I'm sure we have all done. So
that's awesome. Thank you for that, Carissa. Anybody else have some good thoughts about why it's great to be a Salesforce admin?
Now, the term that I actually have used in the past is gateway drug instead of a gateway path. Like, I think, and I've told people, I think Salesforce is a gateway drug to becoming more of an information technology professional. I used to be an English teacher. Some of my favorite people were theater majors who are now Salesforce people. So you can, Joseph, woo, jazz hands. But it's like, yeah, you can come from a liberal arts background, and Salesforce provides you all you need to self-teach. And then you get a support network that you may not have in other careers. So
great.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wanted to add to that too. My background is teaching, and I love being the admin and bringing on new people, teaching them Salesforce, and just being that service provider, because I'm not techie, and that just has filled my need for what I like to do.
Hi, this is Amanda, longtime listener, first-time caller since I'm being recorded here today. In my particular situation, product owner always was told, you get too technical, you want to know how everything works. It can be good and bad when you're working with a team. Salesforce gave me that opportunity to take my career to that next level. And I'm in the Salesforce space, it's amazing to see the growth too. I'm just going to say from women in technology as well. You really are seeing that transition, that you guys are giving us the tools that we don't need to know JavaScript. We don't need to know Java to get into this tool and to build things and come back to our business partners and be like, look at this amazing stuff that I built. You don't have to tell them that you didn't have to do code, right? You can just be like, I'm a super amazing admin, and look, I solved your business problems and I did it quick and fast. So I was kind of in between that space between like too technical, it can be good and bad, get out of it. And then Salesforce opened the door for me to be like, I'm putting my extra awesome technical skills and product owner skills in full use.
Love that. Love that. Anybody else have anything to add?
This is Jackie. I can add to that. I don't think I'm going to say anything crazy different, but I like to tell people I'm the conduit between sales and technology. I don't think anybody owns me as an employee, but they all really appreciate what I can bring to the table because I can speak both languages, if you will. For some reason, there's always that rift between those two areas, and I find that being able to speak both languages helps bring them together. So but I think both teams rely on me to be that middleman, and it actually allows me to be a part of both too, right? I don't want to, keeps me interested. I don't want to be 100% tech person or 100% business person. So it allows me to be both.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I think that's so important too, that you talk about that lingo. I talk about that all the time. I'm like, I speak business and I speak Salesforce. I'm a great translator between the two of them, right? And when you have those skills, sometimes it helps when you're in the space of Salesforce. So thanks for calling that out.
I love that.
That as well, because that's definitely like my users feel comfortable coming to me because I can get their voice heard to the IT department, who doesn't always understand. When I get things done for them, they've coined the term. She Michelle-ified it, is what she did. What they did, and so it just. Whether it was me or the IT department, they just automatically assume it was me. I have to sometimes toot my own horn, sometimes not, but they definitely feel more comfortable coming to me than going to this large vast IT ticket world. So
I love that. Michelleify it. That's great. I've heard versions of that from different admins over the years, and that always makes my heart happy to hear the term for the magic that you create, right?
Right, exactly. Fast.
Okay, so to switch gears a little, so we talked about the positives. Let's talk about some of the challenges and obstacles that you see when pursuing or growing an admin career path. This can be about learning. This can be about job opportunities. Just let it flow. What are some of the biggest obstacles and challenges you see to growing your career as a Salesforce admin?
So I'm a little bit passionate about this, and something that I struggled with in my career. You reach a certain skill level, and I think Kevin actually called this out in the chat, where people want the skills of a developer, but they want to pay an admin price. So your skills, you have to decide how you're going to fight for your worth, because your skills are not, as Brittany said earlier, those of a bottom tier or the first tier of the cake of admin skills. You are the top tier, and you're good, which is a good thing, but the companies don't want to pay you what you're worth, because they really want to pay for that bottom level price. So when you are probably not quite really a developer, because you're not going to write the code, but you can understand the code and you can build some really amazing flows, but they just don't want to pay that. So it's really hard, I have found, to fight for that, and to find a company that understands that. And in my experience, the companies that understand that have a really strong Salesforce architecture team. So you are kind of going into a role where someone has already advocated for you and fought that battle on your behalf. But it's really hard to fight it for yourself, especially in a company that maybe it's not necessarily as technologically inclined or hasn't had experience with Salesforce.
Great feedback.
I'd love to add to that, because we're in a little bit of a challenge as well. Our HR team does not understand what we do at all. And when we try to tell them what we do, they're like, oh, you're a developer. I'm like, no. We're not in that classification. And we've had Salesforce for 8 years at our university, but they just can't seem to figure out what it is we do. And they don't know where to put us. They don't know how to compensate us. They don't understand. And it's really challenging. And I would also add for us too, and maybe it's the same in multiple places, but we're a really small team. There's 2 of us. So we wear all the hats. And that is also hard for them to understand. And we're like, no, we do some code stuff, but then we do some admin stuff. Oh, and yeah, we do project management, and we do documentation and writing and training. And they're like, what? Like, yeah, we do all those things you pay other people separate things to do. That's all us. And it's incredibly hard to explain it when they just don't understand it. So we face that challenge, I think.
Anybody else have some obstacles and challenges they'd love to share?
So I'd just like to piggyback up on that last statement. I really feel like being a Salesforce admin that's successful is basically somebody that is really in between, multiple worlds. And Jackie alluded to that as well. You're almost really a BA, any type of analyst, right? And we also know that if you're talking about the term analyst, it's so generic these days. You could be an analyst and do almost anything, right? I've been a BA in so many different roles in my career, but doing vastly different things for each of those. So that comes somewhat of a limitation, I think, when people are not able to define what you're doing, because you're doing so many different things. You're the catch-all. You're what some people call a generalist, right? I was not able to be titled Salesforce admin prior to my current role because I was doing everything, and they didn't want to say that I was a Salesforce admin. So some of it becomes just the definition that's hard for some people to decide. And I also think because we don't necessarily have a structure that is kind of an elevated Salesforce admin, but not a developer, that's where we sort of get this, what Carissa was talking about, where, because there's no middle tier in between developer and admin, shall we say, to the outside world, it's a little bit harder to, push back when they want developers to do admin things or admins to do developer things.
All great feedback. I'm conscious of time. So if you have other thoughts about either of those two questions or just in general about admin careers, I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts and your feedback. I'm going to put a link in the chat right now to the career survey that I have open. It's actually closing tomorrow, Friday. So if you have 5 minutes, I'd love to get your thoughts and ask some kind of more specific questions about job titles and things like that, which is very useful data for us. If you have time to fill that out, share it with your other friends who are in the ecosystem. That would be fantastic. And then, as always, please feel free to directly reach out to me. I mean, I love hearing thoughts and hearing from all of you. So my email is also in the chat. Please feel free to email me directly anytime. I promise to respond because now everything at Salesforce happens on Slack. So I can actually get through my emails, which is amazing. But yeah, and I'm going to take all of these comments in the chat as well and put them into my little research doc over here. So thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate it. And yay, awesome admins.
Hey, Gillian, this is George Sarabia. Just one last comment, just to reinforce something you guys are already doing, and it has a lot of momentum moving forward, which is the whole Salesforce military initiative. I'm wearing my Trailhead military. I did not know about Salesforce during my time in the military. You know, you're in Iraq, you're in Afghanistan, you're doing other things. And so just getting the word out, and you're partnering with the Hiring Our Heroes program for internships, which is very powerful. So just keep doing what you're doing and continue scaling it out, because there's a natural fit there, and the whole Talent Alliance initiative that you have as well. So what you're doing in terms of getting the word out, when you tell service members and their military family members, for the low cost of free, you can learn on Trailhead, which, by the way, I mean, other people are doing this too now. AWS is doing this, and Microsoft. So this is, people are giving away the knowledge because they want people to use the platform. So keep doing what you're doing, and I applaud your efforts. And I just wanted to give a shout out for the Salesforce military team. They do great work.
It's an amazing group, and I 100% agree with you. I have military in my family, and it's like one of the things that whenever I have time and resources, I do everything I can to help them, because I agree it's an amazing outreach and it's an amazing group of people, and it just makes sense. So yeah, thanks for calling them out.
Gillian, thank you again. Mike, if you're still here, thank you. We loved having both of you. It was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Mike did have to drop off for another meeting, but he expressed his thanks for the invitation. He enjoyed it as well. So great questions, and we'll post all of those the questions that did get answered. We'll post those in the community and tagging. He is in our community, so he'll see those there, and hopefully we'll be able to respond to wrap those up.